Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can all of the people on Teams hear us here? Yeah,
Thumbs up.
Dave,
Let's
we're
go.
good?
Hi. Tracy, good.
Okay, good, thank you. All right. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Is there anything that administration wants to put or add to the agenda?
No. Nope.
No? Anything from, okay, so I'll entertain.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, Tricia moves. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
This is Dylan, I'm in favor.
Tracy's in favor.
I'm in favor.
Yeah, thank you, John. I got y'all. That's carried. Is anyone seen anything with the minutes of the last meeting?
I read through them. I'll make the motion that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Tracy's in favor.
Dylan, I'm in favor.
Okay, Dave, yeah. I didn't get yours, John.
John in favor.
There we go, thank you. That motion's carried. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 6.1, subdivision application 223 sub 07.
Yep. Sure. So this is a proposed subdivision application to create one small ag holding, a 40-acre parcel from a 158.97 acre parcel on northeast 25710 west of the 5th from an A1 parcel. This brings the density to that quarter section to 2 parcels and meets the density provisions set by our MDP. The infrastructure comments on the approach were that the approach to the abandoned well site will need to have the organics scraped off and disposed of and then re-gravelled with the 3/4 inch crush. The Alberta Environment and Parks comments, they would like to see a development setback from the creek identified in the sketch plan in case there is a flood event. And there is an existing septic system on the remainder that will be required to be inspected by a provincially accredited agency. The proposed parcel is over 10 acres and the soil classification test does not be required. Water table testing as the proposed is not required as the proposed parcel is not over 10. It is over 10 acres in size, but it's not required because it's an ag holding. It's not under 10 acres in size. What is happening? Is not required as the proposed parcel is over 10 acres in size. I'm dyslexic. A water availability study is not required as the density is not over 5 acres per quarter section. Letters were sent to adjacent landowners with no letters of concern received to date. It was referred to a number of agencies listed below, and there was no objections. Municipal reserve is not required for the first parcel out of the quarter section, and it is my recommendation that the Municipal Planning Commission consider approval for subdivision application 2023 sub 07 and consideration for the following reasons. And would you like me to read those reasons?
No, I've read through them.
Good. Anyone would like Peter to read those reasons on Teams? No? Hearing none? I don't see a problem at all, so I'll entertain a motion to Tricia.
Okay, I will make the motion that we accept application 2023 sub-07 with conditions as described.
Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Dellin, I'm in favor.
Tracy, I'm in favor.
John's in favor.
Okay, thank you, John. I think we have all those on Teams, so motion's carried. Move on to 6.2, subdivision 2023 sub 09.
Right. So the applicant, or I guess the proposed landowner, is in attendance as it was applied for by Don Wilson Surveys. The proposed subdivision application is to create one small agriculture holding of 13.6 acres from a 60-acre parcel on Northwest 862-6 west of the 5th from an A1 parcel. The proposed zone is A1, and the parcel conforms to the requirements of subsection 5, making this the third parcel on the quarter section. Infrastructure comments: the new approach location will need to be approved before construction. Alberta Environment and Parks recommends a 30-meter development setback from the Freeman River, as the river is highly erodible, and any on-site private disposal systems, which there is one on the remainder, will need to be inspected by a provincially accredited agency to ensure it meets setback requirements. The parcel is water table testing is not required as the proposed parcel is over 10 acres in size. There we go. Water availability study is not required as the density is not over 5 parcels per quarter section, and it was referred to the adjacent landowners and a list of government agencies with no objections received to date. The MGA states that municipal reserves are not required for first parcel out of the quarter section. However, municipal reserves will be required for this additional parcel that is less than 40 acres in size. It is my recommendation that the Municipal Planning Commission consider approval for this subdivision application 2023 sub 09 in consideration of the following reasons. Would you like me to read those?
No, I'm sorry.
No, I'm familiar with that property. Just a question on the Freeman River runs right along the bank there.
Yeah.
And that is on the, I believe, the east. Is it on the east, very east corner? There's a little cabin down over the hill there. Just on the setback is, because that river has really done a lot of erosion there. When there's a development permit issued for that, is that going to be considered as part of the development permit then?
Is what going to be considered? Sorry.
The setback on
Yes,
the
of course. Yeah.
development
Well, it's
permit.
already in our land use bylaw that any slope of greater than 30%, it needs to be 30 meters away from that. So they were basically Alberta Environment basically already told us what was already in our land use bylaw, and then we just even added that condition to the subdivision just so that it's registered on title. And then, yeah.
Good. That was just my concern because I'm familiar with that area.
I just had a
Tricia?
question, through the chair to Pierre, also about the setback, because I had heard you mention it's 30 meters and it's highly erodible. So, but 30 meters is the standard for, like you said, exactly, that's our normal.
Right.
So my question is, if it's highly erodible, how is that defined, basically? And should the setback be increased for that reason to something? And then I'm curious as well for the property owner, what their intent is, how close they do intend to build. Because especially, like I said, where I live, my river just got a whole lot closer to my house. So 30 meters sound like a lot, and right now I'm looking at remarkably less than that, compared to what it was before. So that's why I'm curious if it's something that can be increased. and to protect the property owner and the future property owners.
Right, well, just to start that, I mean, I follow what the experts at Alberta Environment recommend, which was 30 meters from the river. So if they think that's a suitable distance, then I would lean with their judgment. And I also have already approved a development permit that is well off 30 meters for on this site. It's a condition that this subdivision goes through. It was already approved though, and yeah, I didn't include that in this, but there has been a development permit there approved from the existing landowner
Yeah.
prior to subdivision.
Well, I guess the reason that we ask these questions is because one of the things we run into on the planning commission is the fact that, and we had that discussion today, is that the legislative piece that Alberta Environment is supposed to be a little bit more conscious of immediately goes out the door when there's an incident, and then the municipality isn't necessarily on the hook, but neither is the government, and the landowner ends up with the problem. And I guess that's what we're trying to avoid, is to make sure that the landowner doesn't end up not having a piece of property they purchased for, and so this is not a discussion over whether we should do it or whether we should not do it, because our staff always has done a good job of following the guidelines. The problem we have is that the new reality is that some of these things are changing dramatically because of the type of weather events that we're having. So that's why we asked the question. Under the rules, I think that it meets all of the guidelines. So I think at this point, I entertain a motion on the recommendation.
So they are 37 meters from the top of the ridge. It's one of the approved development permits here. And that's what was approved based on Don Wilson Survey's survey plan. That's from the top of the ridge that currently exists to date.
Bruce?
How high is the ridge off the creek? Or the,
Couldn't tell you.
It's shelved, so it goes down quite dramatically, but then it slopes down, and the river is quite far from that ridge, so it's really far from the river. And there's a lot of land that was underwater on June 18th, but it still was a lot of land that wasn't underwater. There's a big clay bank there, so that was all still dry.
Is there, just through to the landowner, is there trees on the property, like on the riverbank, or is it essentially grasses?
Trees, it's fully treed.
Okay, and that helps stabilize the bank, of course. Okay.
And I don't think, is that little cabin still intact on the
Yeah.
riverbank there?
Yeah.
So in other words, that hasn't moved in the last 10 or 15 years.
No, and it's significantly closer to the river than.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's staying with the landowner, not my.
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in good shape, they're renovating it, like putting new siding on, it's worth saving. It
Yeah.
hasn't budged.
Perfect.
That answers my questions.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on that particular one? I guess then we'll entertain a motion on.
Guess we'll get them all. I'll go ahead and make the motion that we accept subdivision application, bear with me just 1 second here, 2023 sub 09 with conditions as presented.
Is there any more discussion on that motion? If not, I'll entertain the question. All in favor?
This is Dalvin, I'm in favor.
This is Tracy, I'm in favor.
You still there, John? You're muted. There we go.
This is in favor, sorry, trying to get back to my screen.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, that motion's carried, so that is an approved application. Thank you very much for coming in and showing an interest in the process and helping us out a little bit there, so.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry we were late, the door, we couldn't get open.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh,
Somebody let us in upstairs though.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to double check. Is it sticky?
Oh, it could have been. Yeah. Come on, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for
luck.
coming.
Have a property now. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. Did you folks go through the permits that Peter approved?
You bet.
So if, Dave?
I'll make a motion to accept the information, items of information.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Not all those in favor?
Ms. Dowland, I'm in favor.
Tracy, I'm in favor.
John's in favor.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys. That motion's carried as well. There's no meeting date required at this time, is what
No,
we're seeing here.
so you guys have a GMP scheduled for September 20th at 4 p.m. So it likely won't be then either. I'm expecting the first Wednesday of October.
First Wednesday of October.
But we'll send an email just to clarify that. But that's when we're gonna try. We're trying to avoid that September 20th date, and
Okay.
the September 6th date is coming up fast. So
Okay.
might not have anything for it.
Good, thank you. Bruce,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Brenda, can you
no discussion on
end
that
stream,
motion?
please?
All those in favor?
The end stream.
Ms. Dowland, I'm in favor.
Tracy, I'm in favor.
John's in favor.
Okay, thank you very much, you guys. The meeting is officially adjourned.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, you too.